Hey folks, Steve here with another Fleurus 1794 video. We are going to go ahead and get started finally after the previous introduction videos, the sort of how to play and strategy videos. We're just going to get it underway. And this should play pretty quick. So we're obviously going to start with turn one. I actually think we could get quite far depending on how much we show on camera. So this being a new system, I've got to feel out, how much content is too much content. Because the system is relatively simple, I wouldn't expect there to need to be um, to be a whole lot of explanation along the way. We kind of covered how the game works. So I should be able to just play. And when you figure that all together, we're really talking about 16 turns. Make sure I have that right. Is it 16 turns? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 15 turns um, of gameplay that's just going to go back and forth. I think it's a pretty simple thing to show a lot of the activity. As we get towards the end, like I've done in other video series, it may not make sense just to show every little thing, every die roll, every counter move, because that just slows us down. I think this whole scenario could probably be banged out. I think in a single sitting, right? If you were not messing around with recording like I am, and that adds time, and I play these things in short little bursts some of the time because I've got a whole life to live. So we're going to get started. We're going to have our first player turn. The first player in this scenario, as stipulated in the playbook, is the Coalition. Coalition is the first player, and we're going to go ahead and get that underway. Now we had covered in some of the previous video content how things come in for um, or that we're going to have reinforcements. So this turn, the coalition is not going to get reinforcements. The French will, but they don't come in until the French player turn. So just keep that in mind. We will have a chance for alternate reinforcements, which would bring in the British and have Hanoverians uh, onto the map, and that's actually a sizable force that would pressure the French quite a bit. But because we're not playing with cards, that is a die roll. So during the movement phase of the Austrians, we will have a chance to roll some dice and see if they come in. The die roll chance is very low. You need to roll a 2 or a 3. So snake eyes are just above snake eyes to get the alternate reinforcements, and then the French actually have a chance to delay it or something, is what the rule sounds like. Just interesting. So don't expect much in the way of reinforcements during the first player turn. So the Austrians are going to have to operate with what they've got on the second turn, which is 7 a.m. The Dutch will come in from the west, so something to watch out for. Okay, so just getting right into it, guys. I think we want to start with uh, uh, well, okay. We'll just start from the very, very beginning. No weather. So we go to the command phase. So the supply segment, supply is all fine. The baggage trains are all in good locations. So just to show where they're at, there's one for the second column, just right back here. Easily traces to supply. The third column, baggage train is here along the main road. Can trace back fine. Fourth column here, can trace back fine. And finally, these guys here can trace just fine. And the supply hexes that we're using are here, here, and here. Technically, we also have a supply hex up there for, I think that is technically supposed to be for British, but or the Dutch, but I think either or can be used. But generally, the safer supply hexes are going to be over here, far away from the French position. So that's easy. Everybody's in supply. We're in good shape. Recovery segment. We don't really have anything to do there, so that's good at least. And then we're going to have a reorganization segment, which again, we don't have any dead units, so that doesn't really do much. We don't have much to do there. Those are kind of administrative tasks at the beginning of the turn. And then we have the command segment. So um, we don't have any out of command markers, so we just remove that. And we're going to look at our command points. So if I zoom in on Coburg, Coburg is the overall commander. He has 2 command points. That is going to enable him to put both the second column and the third column in command. And for the moment, I'm not going to bother putting any markers on those guys. I know they're in command. Those 2 formations definitely are. But we do need to then look at these 2 formations, which are on the map. And we need to roll against the initiative rating of those guys. Now, ideally, both of these guys are going to get in. And then all the units for those formations are all in range of the officer. So we need to roll less than, I'll grab my dice, less than or equal to their initiative. So if we were to roll for Charles in his formation, a 4 or less, and that succeeds, so he is in command. And then Bulow, he is worse, but we'll see what we get. And I got a 3, so he is in command. So all of the Austrian formations are in command, which is good. Let's see, out of command. So nobody is out of command at this point. So generally a good start for the Austrians. All their guys, all their 4 formations currently on the map, columns 2 through 5, are all in command. They're ready to rock and roll on their offensive. That's very, very good. And this means that during this next phase, which is the movement phase, each formation is going to be able to move in the command movement segment, which is the first part of the movement phase. When all of that is done, anybody that was out of command would do a check to see if they could then move being out of command, which can end up being, that's sort of the fog of war. You could have guys not move at all and maybe have taken too much of a chance by moving all your guys forward and have a gap in your line or something like that. But here, everybody's good to go. So I can get right into movement, but first I'm going to do my die roll for the alternate reinforcements, which they do not occur. So we will move just right past that. And now we're going to do movement. So we're already a good chunk of the way through the first turn. We're probably not going to actually get into combat range with most of these Austrian forces. So this will be kind of a quick move forward. Maybe there'll be the potential for a combat somewhere, but I'm gonna have to think through, like, do I overextend myself a little bit to get some early combats going? I don't know that we want to do that. But yeah, so let's figure this out. Command movement segment. I probably want to start on the right and go to the left, so I can kind of, create my operational flank maneuver here, knowing that we'll get the Dutch in later. That seems like the smart thing to do next here. Okay, so starting off, I want to really explain my thought process as I do these first movements, because I think it's reasonably important to explain along the way. We're going to move the 5th column first. Because it to me makes logical sense to do so. The first thing I want to do is think about my supply. So we did just check supply this turn. The next time we're going to check supply is at 9 a.m., which is 3 hours, 3 turns from now. And I know that I'm going to be trying to push on the French, so I'm going to need to move up the baggage train, which is right here. When you check supply, while we had to do setup and we had to have the baggage train within 7 hexes of a unit in the formation, tracing supply is 14 hexes, which is a lot, but I want to show just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So basically, we have, without having moved the baggage train, um, we can project supply out to where the French are, but knowing that we're probably going to want to move beyond that, we want to move the supply train up. We don't want to move it so far up that the French have some way to snipe the baggage train with a loose cavalry unit. So we're going to move forward the baggage train a little bit. Baggage trains have 4 movement points, so we're going to do. Oh gosh, and I don't think they are considered to use road movement. At least I'm reasonably confident that they don't. So, of course, I have to look this up. I thought I was ready to go. Paying cavalry costs for movement, and they may use road march. Okay, so I think what we can do is say we're going in a road march. I could grab a road march marker, but I don't think we need to really do that. And we're going to do 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to spend a movement point to come out of road march. Not that it really matters, but we're going to do it because we need to cross these bridges. So in road march, it just means we get across with no movement point penalty. So 1, 2, 3, 4 to come out of road march. We're going to sit happily in St. Martin Baltra. I'm sure I'm going to butcher that pronunciation, guys. Don't worry about it. So our baggage train is hanging out in this town that also happens to have a chateau. Not that that really matters for the baggage train, and that will increase, how far down we can go with supply. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So that gets us basically to Fleurus if we went down that way, and gets us almost to Lambusar down there. And of course, we can continue to keep moving the baggage train up as we go, but we have plenty of movement that we should be in good shape. I should also point out that with the terrain the way it is on this part of the map, that even if you go in a road movement, you're really just using road movement to get the benefit for crossing the stream at the bridge. The reality is that um, it being in road movement won't help otherwise here, because you don't get extra movement advantages with trail, which is what all these are. The road, which is further north, the main roads here, you could basically spend half a movement point per hex, but down here in this area of the map, it's all trail. So just keep that in mind. Road movement, it's going to be good for crossing bridges at this point. If we're not crossing bridges, then there's really no point in going in a road movement. So now we're going to advance, and I need to think about, it's sort of the first decision point, how far afield do I send my cavalry? So we certainly have some cavalry here that can move 7 movement points, which means they could head out farther than at least 3 more hexes than the infantry. But going into the next turn, where they would activate, assuming the French don't attack that cavalry, or that cavalry gets hurt, or whatever the case might be, do we send that cavalry out there such that it won't be in the command radius of the officer when we do command, and leaving it to having to roll by itself? Now a 3, basically a 50% chance of being in command or not, a 50% chance of moving, a 50% chance of moving if out of command. So we need to kind of think through that. And this is where the risk decision is for movement, or in this game system. Do you send your cavalry really far afield, in which case it may be hard to get them back because they're not activating for movement, because they're failing to get initiative when they're out of command? Or do you keep them closer to the formation, which means they'll always be in command to do what you want, but you're only using them in a very localized way? I think for this, we will probably want to have that cavalry do some flanking to force the French to pull back. But we can probably do that while keeping them still in the command range of Bulow. So let me think through that, and we'll execute. So I think what we'll want to do is because the officer is so important um, to where we're going to be at, we're going to move this stack first. And if we go, let's see, with 4 movement points, go 1, say 1, 2, 3, 4. And we wouldn't quite be in the chateau. Alternatively, we could go 1, 2, 3. That would be a problem. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I think what we'll just do is we'll move these guys up to here, going 1, 2, 3, 4 as a start. And then we'll follow that up with 1, 2, 3, 4. Actually, yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4. And so we're in the chateau, we're in the woods as clear defensive terrain, and then we'll protect that flank with our cavalry. So we can go 6. We would appreciate the opportunity to fire our artillery, even though these guys are no, they're in a chateau in the forest. That would be a bit of a problem. Still, I think we could do 1, 2, 3, 4, and kind of be against this hill. So either the French would have to go around us, which I don't think they would have enough movement for, or they've got to go up the slope, which is going to be additional movement point going uphill if they were to try to go kind of like this way. So I think that's a safe move there. And then for these guys, I think we want to do 1, 2, 3, 4, or 1, 2, 3, 4, and be on the other side of the crest, which these guys are, they don't have very good initiative, which would mean that if they're engaged in shock, they're going to have much harder time. So I don't think we want someone to jump them over the crest. So we would go 1, 2, 3, 4. I would rather have gotten up into here, but we can't really do that. And then for our other cavalry here, we do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Using the trail allows us to not get bogged down in the forest with cavalry. And we're still in command. So 1, 2, 3 from our officer should mean he stays in command into the next officer command range of 3. So that's it for them, right? They've moved ahead. They've gotten into what is reasonably defensive terrain if the French were to push them. And we also have now, we're holding the other side of this bridge and can continue potentially in the next movement phase when they go again to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and be threatening to outflank the French from the south if we were to choose to push that direction. And I think that's a reasonable start. These guys would have rather have gotten them, further down the road, but even being in road movement would not have helped them move any faster through here. So I think that's just as good as it's going to get for them. So a little bit of an exposure here, but I don't see the French wanting to drive up into here. They just don't have either the movement or the capability to really push too hard. And again, the Zocs for these units, there are Zocs and these hexes, so the French can't really push through that whole line necessarily. We do want to have that capability to fire our artillery, but we presently don't have a lot of good options for a good shot off at this point. 1, 2, 3, yeah, out of range. That could change in the next go. So I think that's it for the fifth column. Next, we'd want to look at the fourth column, and they're kind of in a similar situation. Like, what, how do we want to operate here? We want to protect our flank. We want to make use of terrain as best we can, be in at least good terrain, and make it harder to break up what we're doing. So I think certainly we're going to move our baggage train up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so we'll move up our baggage train up to here. So that gives us plenty of space to work with. And then we will see these guys go, let's see, 1, 2, let's say we'll do that so we avoid getting a clean shot from artillery here. And I have an idea. We'd maybe do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. How we want to stay. This is where it's going to get tricky here, guys. I think maybe what we'll simply do is go 1, 2, 3, 4. So guarding our flank, and then being able to potentially fire our own artillery. And then with this stack, which is infantry with more artillery, we will go simply 1, 2, 3, 4. And then if we were to go into road movement, would that help? Go 1, 2, 3, 4. Or alternatively, we go into road movement and go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then they're stuck in road movement, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Let's just do this. We'll do 1, 2, 3, 4. The road movement, I mean, there's not like there's this huge penalty. So maybe let's just do it. So road movement, I'm not going to use a marker yet. 1, 2, 3, 4, and get the road march movement marker on him. And I think that's fine. So basically, we have a decent spot here. If they come in, I guess, yeah, there's a little bit of danger of Zoc stuff. So what I may do is instead say that he's here. So at least he's in the chateau. Oh boy. And then he wouldn't have been able to get there with the road movement. So he'd go 1, 2. Because the road march can't be adjacent to another unit. So we have to be really selective with how we navigate this. Alternatively, because that's just a stream, we could go 1, 2, 3, 4, which sounds a lot better to me. So let's just do that. So we have Zocs here, Zocs here. So there's a kind of a lack of support right here, but we can resolve that. I think this is just fine. We can potentially fire artillery, though there'll be counter battery fire, so we may not be able to make much happen right there for now. Okay, and then if we go up to the blue and red formations, the second and third column, we'll move them forward. I think for the third column, we definitely want to make sure that there's some guarded flank here so that our yellow formation, our fourth formation, can't easily be cut off. So we definitely want to like come out and around, maybe to this crossroads here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Go ahead and do that. He may end up being out of command by the time movement is done, but I like the idea that we are moving forward supported. This cavalry can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So kind of blocking the road so that we can't be flanked, that we're going to progress forward. I'm going to do 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then have these guys go 1, 2, 3, 4. So kind of spread out, and it's the potential that these guys are going to be out of command on the next turn, but we're covering our flank. There's no mega danger there. They're mutually supporting units, basically, and I think that's good enough for the moment. Or at least it'll have to be. Could see a situation where these guys try to go like 1, 2, 3, 4. No, I think that's a safe move for the moment. If I get it wrong, I get it wrong. And then finally, for these. For the red stack, oh, and I do need to move, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. I need to move the final column here. And for this, we kind of have to decide, for the second column, do we focus on attacking the left wing of the French army, or do we continue to pressure the center, knowing that they have their reserve formation further south here, so you can kind of see the whole situation. You might want to zoom out a little bit for this. I think there's enough of some protection of the flank here that we can try to make our way down. What I may want to do is just do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and hold there for the moment, and then have the main stack of artillery and infantry come down and simply go 1, 2, 3, 4. So these guys can retreat, and screen if the French decide to push, and then we'll have this guy in a road movement and go 1, 2, 3, spend a movement to come out of road march in the town. And then, let's see, we do 1, 2, 3, 4, at least within 1, 2, 3. And so we'll just move this guy 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're doing that so that those officers stay within range of Coburg. He's sort of attached to the second column, so they all stay in sync, in command range, and are able to continue to push on the next Austrian turn. So really straightforward stuff. That was kind of a slow go, but I wanted to show you guys the thought process of the movement. So we've not actually moved to engage with the French yet. That kind of gives some advantage to the French to make some response to our moves, but generally I think the moves that I made have all been relatively safe. They're decent moves to get us going. There's pressure all along the way. And then, oh, I should. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 14. Let's move. I forgot to move the second column baggage train. So there you guys go. So you can kind of see, and in some places I'm starting to move the baggage train up pretty far. I don't think they're necessarily in deep danger. It's going to be hard for a faction's baggage train to be taken, or a side's some formations baggage train to be taken, unless the whole unit's been banged up and there's this clear opening for cavalry to catch the baggage train. I doubt that we would ever see infantry catch a baggage train unless that baggage train's been poorly mismanaged in terms of its placement. But it's conceivable that, maybe as the fighting goes on, we get a French cavalry that's willing to snake out and can make it up there to capture. That is, that could maybe happen. So, all right, so that's it for the Austrian movement phase. Because we had all of our units, all of our formations in command, there is no initiative movement segment, and we would just go right to the command phase. So the very first part of the command phase is the line of sight step, which when we look at this, a line of sight is a straight line of 3 hexes from center to center. Now, we're not playing with hidden units, so right now that doesn't matter a whole lot to me playing at solitaire like this. But to just kind of talk about what's line of sight at this point, we would have line of sight over here because these units are nearby each other. If you're in their Zoc, you would also potentially recon them and understand which units are there, revealing the units. Because these units are within 3 hexes of each other and have a clear line of sight. Same with this stack. So we would be able to know what these guys are, basically. These 3 stacks have that visibility. On this side, I don't think there's a clear line of sight because of the town. I have to double check that. And then in a few of these other places, it's really going to come down to the town. Okay, it's not between. So any of these units, like they would be able to see here, they would be able to see, let's see. This one, probably not, because there's a crest and there's a town. So just keep in mind, if you're playing this opposed, this is where the game would be very different, because you would have these hidden units. You would have a much better idea of what's there, but only some of these units would have that clear line of sight. So basically, again, here being the obvious place, and then these hexes over here. Because of the lack of blocking terrain, there's not forests or towns in between, or units that are in towns, I believe, if there's no other obstructing terrain between the viewing units, would be in line of sight, invisible. Now, when you are in that state where it's feasible, there's a there's a chance that if you enter an enemy zone of control, you would consult the reconnaissance table. And this is what the reconnaissance table looks like, where applies when a unit moves into an EZOC, if you have vedettes or light cavalry versus the type of unit you have. So if you're an infantry, then you're probably not going to actually find anybody with reconnaissance. If you're a light cavalry or a vedette, a light cavalry is a bit better, then you would be able to potentially see
what the visibility is. So um, definitely some interesting bits there that we're really not going to experience very much. Um, if no repulse is attempted, each player will reveal all friendly light cavalry or vedette units in the hex, then cross-reference to determine whether other units will be revealed or whether those vedettes are eliminated. So you can be using vedettes and light cavalry to discover the enemy, right? If you're playing with the counter sleds or with hidden units, they can go up and reveal those units. But there's a possibility that those same units will be eliminated. So there's definitely a cost to the reconnaissance aspect. And again, we're really not going to get to see much of that in this playthrough because I'm not playing with the hidden units. So sorry, guys. It feels weird to say. It kind of feels like a missed opportunity, given that this is solitaire. I don't know how to address it without putting additional layers of self confusion on that I just don't want to. I don't think I can really work with very well. So, line of sight is understood. We have a cavalry retreat step in the combat phase where they can retreat before combat. That's not going to occur here. None of the units are in shape to do that. We do have the potential for an artillery reaction fire step, so the non-phasing player can execute bombardment. Based on our current situation on the board, I think the only place that we're going to potentially see that is here and here, where things are in view. It could be something here. There's artillery there. There is not artillery there, so I'll have to double check whether or not we can make anything happen. And then everywhere else is not going to be the case. So we're going to need to look at the artillery reaction firing. I mean, I think it's worth a shot. If we can get a shot off, we should try. Um, yeah. The non-phasing player executes bombardment. The bombardment strength may be reduced by counter battery fire. Um, so here, what we could do is have this artillery fire here at these units right there. So we would designate the bombarding units, designate the target hex, 2 hexes away. We're going to determine the bombardment strength. The effective bombardment strength is going to be reduced by 1/2 the strength of any artillery in the target hex. Um, and unfortunately, because that is a 1, the counter strength is rounded down. So instead, this is still going to be a 1, it looks like. There's any other terrain modifiers. It's firing from a clear hex into a clear hex. So that doesn't really do much there. So we'll roll on the bombardment table. So a strength of 1, and we'll roll the die. And basically, we would want a 5 or a 6. Basically, is what we need on the 1 column. Ooh, we got a 6. So a 6 is a DR. Defender retreat on successful initiative check may convert the result to 1R instead of DR. Okay. I don't think we want to do that. I don't think we want to take a step loss. So we will happily take a retreat, I guess, in this case, which I guess doesn't harm us too heavily. That could have been worse if the bombardment strength was higher. Um, so we'll go ahead and retreat the 1 hex here. That forced a retreat, which would make the active bombardment step a bit of a problem. So now we have our attack declaration step. Here we would be doing our own bombardment. Let's see if there was any issue with if we had retreated, does that hurt our ability to fire back? I think we are still allowed to. I don't see anything that would keep us from doing it. Okay, so they would fire, but they're firing at 3 hexes, which is a problem. The strength of any artillery unit starting at 3 hex is reduced by 50%, round fractions down. So we would have 1. We're going to have less than 1, and so really there's no way for us to actually hit these guys. So because those units had to retreat at 50% strength due to being at range 3, these guys really can't do any damage with this artillery unit. So we can't do that. The other option would be whether or not we can fire with a 2, which gets reduced to a 1 at this hex, but I think the terrain is basically going to hurt that pretty heavily. Artillery bombarding into towns are reduced by 1/3, and you can't bombard into a town at hex range 3, so we can't even fire at this guy. So much for that idea. So yeah, all that's done. Cavalry charge step. There's nobody that was going to do a cavalry charge. There's no combat, and so that's it. The first Austrian turn sees the Austrians advance, and then some defensive bombardment from the French force some cavalry with some horse-drawn artillery to retreat back. They received some level of fire, and that warded them off, forcing them to retreat, and that's where we're at as we switch over to the French turn for this. Okay, we'll try to get through turn 1 of this video by running our way through the French turn very quickly. So for the French player turn, very similar to the first player turn, we have weather, doesn't matter, card segment doesn't matter, supply segment, everyone's still fine for supply at the moment. No recovery, no reorganization. We do have the command step. Now there's something special that's going to come into play here. One is Kleber right here, and we'll zoom in so you guys can see this a bit better. His initiative rating is in square brackets, which means it's not actually an initiative rating. That is his command rating, which means that he is a commander officer or an officer commander, which means he has a command point just the same as our primary leader, Jourdan, which means he can always put his entire formation in a command, assuming they are within his command range, which happens to be 4 hexes, not 3. So it's sort of that mid-tier leader, not as high utility as, say, the commanding officer, the commander of the whole force on the map, but does provide some consistent initiative. So where other leaders, other officers have to roll for initiative, he can always ensure his formation is in command. So that is important. He is not in range of Jourdan, who's over here. So we're going to start talking about command over here because of these different important pieces. The trick here is going to be that we've got a segment of guys over here that are not going to be in command. So if I can just put some of these markers on as the mnemonic, they are not in command. They are not in range of the leader, and that's going to be a problem for them. Yeah. So those guys are not in the command range. We're also going to have some reinforcements entering the map, scheduled reinforcements, which are more infantry, more cavalry, more artillery for the left wing. They're going to come in at hex 0110 down here, just off camera. And when they enter, they're going to be considered to be able to move and engage freely, which is sort of like they're in command when they enter, because they have to come onto the map. They have to come onto the map and do something. But these guys are going to have a problem until we can get them in better shape, basically, or in the proper command range. So we're going to need to do something with that. So just keep that in mind, that this left wing, some of the units are going to automatically be in command and can operate, the others will not. We know that there will be coalition reinforcements coming here. They're also going to come in down here. So what's probably going to happen is we're going to have these guys set up through here to defend. These guys get into some good shape to defend here, and then these guys kind of pull back into this area um, to kind of get everybody kind of back into command over in the far left flank. And then what we'll probably need to do is move our reserve formation up into this area to contest the second column. So there's a little bit of shifting we're having to do in response to the coalition reinforcements. That's just something we're going to have to deal with. We just have to do it. So watch for that as we look at the rest of these things. Then just to move things over a little bit here, Hatchery is within range of Jourdan and can definitely be put in command. So the whole reserve formation will be in command. Same thing with our center formation. All of those guys are within activation range or command range. I keep using the word activation. It's not appropriate. So these guys are going to use 2 of Jourdan's command points to be in command. And then finally, we have these guys. And for our advance guard, we're going to need a roll because they're not in range of Jourdan. And so they are in command. And then finally, the right wing, which has the potential to not be in command, is actually not in command. So I will need to put what I'll just do is I'll put a marker on just the leader. And we know that the right wing is out of command. And this is actually pretty bad because we're now going to have to roll individually for each unit to see if they can move. And we definitely need to do that because we're about to get outflanked potentially by the Austrian 5th column. And we need to get probably this cavalry covering the roads around here near the leg of my camera stand, and these guys kind of moving into some better positions. But if they're not in command, if they're sleeping, that could be a problem for us. So we're going to have to deal with that. Not a good result. I'm not happy with that. That's bad. That's bad. This was really the key one we needed to get. So we're going to have to deal with that. Yeah, boy, that sucks. Yikes. All right. Well, we're done with that, and we'll do the command movement segment. So again, everybody that's in command is going to be able to move, and we'll have to do that before any of these guys move. And what we can try to do is, we know with our advanced guard that these guys may not move so well, so we can maybe try to do something there to offset that. Though I don't know we have very many options, and we may even want to just try to get up into Fleurus and try to fight the 4th column and just duke it out. I'm not sure what we're going to want to do there. It's going to be tricky. So we'll figure it out. Let me think through what we want to do here. All right, we'll go ahead and do the command movement. I think the important thing will be we get the reinforcements on first. Now, the way this can work is, assuming you can keep stacking, which these 2 is appropriate enough for our purposes, we can go 1, 2, 3, 4. which gets us closer to our supply line. We're just adjacent to these towns. And then we can enter the cavalry, but we would pay 1 extra movement point because there was a stack that came in before us. So this would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6, basically. Now this is a pretty weak cavalry unit, which could be its own challenge, certainly. But getting onto the map is step one, and we'll do that. Oh, and actually, because of that bridge, that actually could be a problem. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, if they came in road movement, but then we would have issues with those guys. Let's just do this. We'll have it set up like that. Alternatively, we would have these guys go in first and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then have these guys come in 1, 2, 3, 4, and be set up like so. Maybe that's the better move here. Tough to say, guys. For the rest of these in command units, I do think we need to retract some of our forces. So Kleber with this guy probably need to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Oops. And basically put these guys back into command 1, 2, 3, 4 for next time. And then, really similarly, these guys would be going basically 1, 2, maybe 3, 4. Putting themselves in command, but also making their way west with some defensive terrain, and then probably want to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and that's probably fine. So we've got some screening. So now we've got something of a force here. We're certainly going to want to move these guys further on. Or maybe I should have gone 1, 2. This is actually a good spot for them. I think that's fine, so that we don't get these guys going, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and having them threaten to outflank this stack. This is a good holding position for the moment. So we'll do that. We'll have to come back for these out of command units, and then for the reserve stack, which we definitely want to move, I think. We want to shift left a bit here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm not sure I want these guys. Maybe we just put them here for now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Check my combat die roll modifiers here. Defending infantry are increased, but not cavalry. So I don't know. Sieging the town feels like a bad call. But I don't want to get caught up in there either. So I think maybe we just let these guys control the flank, and then we'll move the rest of our forces accordingly and get 1, 2, 3, 4. One, 2, 3, 4. Get up behind this crest. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we still want to keep this guy off to another flank, but 3, 4. I don't want him by himself either, is the problem. we'll probably do this. Get him moved, and we'll probably move Jordan into the center somewhere. That might be all the movement we really need. And maybe we leave our commander out. I think the commander can be by himself. I need to double check that. I think officers have to be in the stack or with a stack. I think we can leave him there. So we'll leave Jordan so that he can put guys into supply or in command rather. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's good. Boy, we're actually in a tough situation because there's this spot that can open up and cause a flank problem, and we don't want that to happen. What this is going to be a challenge, guys. Maybe we need to rethink the approach here. All right, this may be the best we can do. So rather than go on attack, we're going to remain in a defensive posture. This does worry me. We're going to have to do something about this. And so I think the very best thing we can do is move to here, or maybe actually we leave these guys here and we let this guy hold like so. And well, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He's got to stay in command. So this is the best we can do to kind of hold some kind of Zoc line over here, knowing that we may not be able to protect these guys on the right wing, and that could be a huge problem. So that's it for the command movement. And if we do the non-command movement, we'll do a check for this guy, who 3 or less, he can move. So I think what we'll do is we'll try to. Yeah, they're gonna have command problems ultimately, but let's try to come back 1 hex, and we'll do that stack. You can also activate. We'll come back. Well, actually, we're gonna. See. These guys actually might be all right where they're at, other than maybe moving up to a better position here. And then these guys probably not going to activate. No. Well, yeah, I think these guys are going to stay put. So a little bit of an adjustment, but not much of one. There's only so many options we really have. The alternative maybe would be we move these guys even further. So we did what? 1, 2, 3, 4. And then that way, you guys can't really see it. Trying to move him down and around so that there's some cavalry here screening the reinforcements that the coalition will eventually get down here. And that may be the best thing. We don't want to lose the river crossing, and so we need to accommodate that. Then over here, unfortunately, we have the whole right wing that maybe can't move. So we'll go with the cavalry first. He can move, which thank goodness. So I think what we're going to end up doing is sending him 1, 2, 3. So if they try to sneak through here, they're going to run into the Zoc or forest and slow them down. And then the infantry there, we want to probably pull back. And we can, thank goodness. So we'll do, well, that is a chateau, but I don't want to get, he could be easily flanked. So we're going to pull back to here. Then we're going to roll for that one infantry. And he can't move, which means we're not going to move the artillery. And does it make any sort of sense to activate that stack? Probably not. So that's it for the movement. I think that's reasonable. That is reasonable to hold the position. We're giving up a chateau, but we're going to move back into the town, and so we're kind of protecting the flank. Not that we can't be. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Ooh, yeah, that's a problem. I think that is going to protect him from being flanked. It's just to move back into the forest, which would be better, and then no one's going to be able to move down here fast enough to outflank these cavalry. And that's the best we can do. Gosh, it's tough, guys, because you know what the opponent is going to be able to do on their next move, so you're trying to account for that, but you still only have so many options at play to affect change, to make any sort of difference. And there's no point in the French trying to fire their artillery because there's really nobody in good range to do it with. So I want to say that's it. I'm trying to make sure there's no other fire solutions that we can put up that would hit any Austrians. I think that's it. I didn't move my baggage train, so it might be worth figuring out, what can be done for those guys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Move that guy back. Move him over 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 9, 10, 11. One, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Okay. And okay, so we've adjusted our baggage trains, but nothing much to write home about. And that's it for the first turn, guys. So in an hour, we've seen some troop marching, mostly trying to figure out, where are they going, what can they do. The line of sight rules are such, and the artillery strength are such that there's really not much more to be done. But if we let the Austrians come to us, assuming we've set up a decent defense, the French are thinking that we'll let the Austrians eat some artillery shots, maybe fail in some attacks, and then concerted counterattacks at the right time may simply be the right move. So that's it for turn one, guys. Given the length of the video, I think we're going to call this one, and then from turn 2 onward, we're going to do things much faster. So I did a lot manually, slowly on camera, counting out the hexes, the movement points, figuring out the right way to go. I may have made some mistakes. If I did, let me know.
But probably in the next video, when we start looking at turn 2, I'm just going to do the phase, show the aftermath of the phase, and run through. We'll eventually get to a combat, which we didn't get to this first turn. And when we do, we'll slow it down and talk through the combat. But for now, I think this is good for the video. So thanks for watching. Hopefully this wasn't too onerous and monotonous for you. In the next video, we're going to pick up the pace a bit and start running through the command and movement phases very, very quickly, and then talk the combats when those really start to kick in. So see you in the next one, guys. Take care. Keep gaming.